All right, welcome. Today we have a webinar from Start Deliver. It's called Beating Churn. It's the first part of two, where we will start by looking at it from a strategic point of view. This is what we call the strategy session. So great to have you with us, and let's hit it off. I'm here with you today. My name is Johan Nilsson. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Start Deliver. I will be hosting the webinar today, and all the material will be shared with you. So you will get both the recording and the presentation. We will take questions at the end. Please post them whenever you come up with a question in the Zoom webinar, and we will cover them all in the end. We will also have an opportunity to talk after, and you are more than welcome to set an appointment and go into more depth in this topic with me later after the call. So great again to have you with us, and let's get this going. So we'll keep it around 25 minutes, but the topic is big, so we can go into a lot of detail afterwards as well. And today we're here to talk about churn, and I think churn is it's not the most fun topic, and it's a little bit the elephant in the room. When you ask someone how is the churn situation at your company, you will get a lot of different answers. A lot of people will say there is no problem, everything is fine, we don't have an issue with churn. And of course, that's something you say probably externally to your customers, to prospects, to investors. But if there is a problem with churn, you need to address it. And I think there's some signs when you have issues with churn, but you're not really addressing them. And it's sometimes this external message is the same message you communicate internally. And if you have problems with churn, but you don't talk about it internally, then there is some form of denial here. You're basically putting things in the closet and hiding from it rather than facing it. And that is devastating. And that's not how you can make a change as well. So internal denial is quite common when it comes to churn and issues surrounding churn. And I will come back to that later, why we tend to avoid talking about the issues here. Another part of this is that even if maybe we don't have high churn number, we don't have a high percentage of churn at the moment, but sometimes the case is that we have quite poor adoption. So even the customer is staying with us, they are not using the whole platform, or all the users are not really active in our platform. So I would say like poor adoption is churn in disguise. Because what happens when another solution enters the market that is cheaper than yours, better than yours, smarter, whatever it is, and you have customers that are not really using the whole platform you have, they will churn. So if you have poor adoption, that's just an early signal that you will later on have a churn. So I think that's the case sometimes when you don't have right now a problem with churn, but you will have later. Another thing here is that you always find an excuse. Yeah, we lost that customer because they are completely different, or it was because of this and that, or it was because Johan, he made a big mistake here, or he promised this and it failed because of that. So sometimes when you have issues and you look at an individual customer, you find a lot of excuses why that customer canceled on you, why they left, and you blame other stuff. And of course, in some cases, we messed up or something extraordinary happened, and that's why we lost the customer. But that's also usually if you have churn issues, there's structural problems underlaying them that you need to address. And that's what this webinar is about as well. So if you have a lot of blame game going on, that's try to avoid that and go one step deeper. And the last part here is that you have churn issues, but you try to solve them with shortcuts, fast fixes. You do things that you hope will fix the problem. Some really devastating problems is when you try to lock customers in to avoid the churn issues. There's several ways where you can do that with the contracts and clauses, and you don't contact the customer until they have renewed and stuff like that. There's a lot of shortcuts here where you try to fix this problem, but you don't really invest in it properly. And that's what we want to help you with today. It's to look at it do it in the real way, the right way, and then you have to dig a little bit deeper, and you have to really invest your time and focus in this. So that's some of the issues surrounding churn and why it sometimes is a little bit of an elephant in the room. And what we want to also bring up here is that even if churn is a little bit, it's not the most fun topic, but you can look at it as information on where you can improve and where you can actually turn around a lot of things and make it something to help you grow. So that's as an intro. But if we take one step back, what is churn, and how do you look at churn, and what if you're completely new to this area, what is it? Basically, if we look here, we can look at our customers. We have a set of customers today. They pay us an annual. We have an annual recurring revenue on each customer, and the total of all customers is our total annual recurring revenue. And when we lose a customer, some of that annual recurring revenue is lost. And when a customer downgrades, some of that annual recurring revenue is lost. But then on the other hand, we also have potential where we can upgrade and we can sell add-ons and so on. So we can also recover some of that annual recurring revenue. And then in the end of a period, you have an annual recurring revenue that if you have the red ones here are churn, basically. The green ones are expansion. And the difference between the annual recurring revenue in the start of the period and the end of the period, that's the net revenue retention rate. So the difference there is the net revenue retention rate. I know a lot of you are, of course, familiar with these definitions, so we will not spend too much time here, but we will come back to them, of course, later on in the webinar. So it's good to just talk them through, and so everybody's on the same page here. And why is net revenue retention important? Well, basically, if you have really good net revenue retention, every new customer you bring in will actually grow and keep growing with you. These are some best-in-class benchmarks that we have picked up. Net revenue retention above 130% is really best in class, I would say. And that means actually that like every year the customer will grow 30% more. So that's huge, of course. But then if we look at churn rates or gross retention rates, I think these are quite good benchmarks to look at. So if you're in an enterprise market that you have quite large average contract values, 5% gross churn is really good, is a really good number. If you're in a mid-market, then it's like 8% churn is a really good number. Gross churn, that is gross churn. And if you're in SMB market, around 10% gross churn is a really good benchmark. This can vary, of course, but I think it's still good to have some discussion around where the market usually is. So, and what does this mean? Basically, if you're in a mid-market and you have 8% churn, that means that your customer, the average customer, will stay with you for 12.5 years. That's the power in the subscription business. 12.5 years, the average customer will still be with you if you have 8% gross churn. So that's huge. And that's why it's so important to work with this, because if you can improve this just 1%, the impact for your company and for the growth of your business is huge. So it's easy to do the numbers, but it's harder to do the actions required to reach that number. And that's why we're here. So let's go into it. Can you make a real change in churn? Can you improve your churn in 12 months? We have seen this, and you can do it, but it requires a lot of things, of course. But I think that's a reasonable time period to make a real impact on your churn rate. And how do you do that? So let's break it down here. So we want to improve, actually we want to improve net retention, because churn is one of the parameters here, but the other part is of course expansion. So you have how we improve net revenue retention is by improving churn, the gross churn, and of course expansion. I will come back to how expansion is actually a part of fixing churn as well. And how do we do that? We do that actually by fixing three things. We will focus on three things here to have this 12-month impact. And it's basically broken product, bad fit customers, and the last part is customer success operations. So if you fix these three things, depending a little bit on your situation, there will be more emphasis on one or the other. But if you do that, you will, in 12 months, have an improved churn, a lower churn rate, basically. So I will not go into all detail on expansion because that's a whole webinar itself. But what's important about expansion, it's not only helping your net revenue retention, but it's actually also lowering your churn when you expand. So I found this study from Profitwell that they have looked at a lot of SaaS companies in the US, and they've seen actually that customer or SaaS companies that have more add-ons, they have more products, they have a larger product basically, they have also a lower churn. So they can both upgrade, they can cross-sell and upsell, and they will have a lower churn. So that's really, I think, a really good insight into how can we have more add-ons? How can we have more things to offer? Because that will improve net revenue retention by expansion, but it will also lower our churn. So really interesting study here. You will get this, of course, in the shared material if you want to have a further look. But today we're focusing in more on the churn related part in this net revenue retention. And to start off, let's dig into this broken product. What do we mean here? And Lincoln Murphy, we had him on our webinars many times, and let's look at this from a higher level. The customer is buying your product because they want to achieve something. They want to achieve their desired outcome. They want to get better at something. They want to improve or lower cost. They want to achieve something, and that's the goal with buying your product. Of course, that's the basics or the basis for why they are a customer. And if your product is broken in any way, they will not get there. And broken product, it sounds a little bit, is this really an issue? And I would say it is. In some extent, it can be, if it's a big issue, of course, then there is, you probably know about it already, but in some extent, you usually have some issues with your product. And we see three different types of problems with the broken product here. One is features. It can be that we are selling features that really don't work, or they don't work as the customer anticipate they will work. I've seen this many times, and it's something that maybe it's not discovered during the sales process, but it's discovered when you start actually trying to do things. So broken features is the part of a broken product, of course. Another part is broken use cases. So also here, we have situations, or we have problems our product is supposed to be solving, but the use case doesn't work. So that could be a combination of things, and could be a combination of external integrations with other tools or data, or it can be several things, but it's actually something the customer wants to do in your product, but it doesn't work. And the third part here is that sometimes it's if you've been on the market for a while with your product, you can actually fall out of product market fit. So when you launched maybe 5 or 10 years ago, your customers they loved your product, they wanted it, they used it, and you did not have a problem here. But time has passed, and maybe you haven't invested in your product enough with new features, taking care of new developments in the market, and so you have gradually lost your relevance, and you have probably fallen out a little bit on what's expected of your type of solution. And that's something, of course, that you need to fix as well. And that's also sometimes the case when you have a broken product. And how do we solve this? And here I think it's really important. This is something that management need to solve, of course, and management need to be aware of. And you as an individual customer success manager cannot fix the product, of course. But what you can do, and what customer success organizations should do, is bring this to the table and inform everyone how the situation actually is. And do that by bringing data in here. I have been talking to both quantitative and qualitative data. So you can support this and show this, and really be showing a number of support tickets, or showing replies from customers, or even if you have surveyed the customer and received that it is feedback. So we need to bring this up to the table. Management needs to address this, and we need to be very we need to be very frank about issues we have with the product. Then you can solve this, and you should solve this, because this will only hurt you going forward, of course. So that was a broken product, and sometimes when you start off doing like an churn reduction program, you don't think that's the problem. But as you go deeper, and as you start talking to the customer and doing more, some of these things might come up. So even if you don't think it in the beginning, maybe be aware that this could actually be one of the problems. Another problem could be bad fit customers. So I think this is really key, and this is of course also something that's not only customer success team or organization's job to fix, it's the company's job to fix. So what is a bad fit customer? Well, a good fit customer usually gets value from your product easy. A bad fit customer, it takes time, if they ever get value from your product. With a good fit customer, the next steps of using your product or doing more with your product is very clear. With a bad fit customer, you don't really know what is the next step. What should they be doing? A good fit customer usually wants to buy more, usually wants to invest more, get help from you, do more. A bad fit customer, they think you're expensive. They don't want to pay. They don't see the value. Good fit customers, they will give you good feedback. They will promote your product. They will talk to friends and family about you. Bad fit customers will do the opposite, basically. So this is pretty straightforward, and everybody understands good fit is good and bad fit is bad. So what's the issue here? Well, the issue here is that we also want to grow. We want to bring in more and more customers. We have investors, we have leadership team, we have the VP of sales. Everybody wants to bring in customers and grow the company. So that's the pressure, right? And that's why sometimes if you don't work on identifying bad fits, you will have sales bringing in all customers they can. And how to fix this? Basically, it's something you need to align with sales. So you need to work with sales to get this right. And I would say, like good fit, you can have checklist of what is characteristics of a good fit customer, and you can identify several different steps there. But sometimes I think it's even better to do what's bad fit, because there will always be a gray scale here, and it will sometimes even be up to the individual, the customer or the individual stakeholder on the customer side. So more important here is to identify what are bad fit characteristics, and try to be very clear on the gray scale, and try to identify the showstoppers. If we only work B2B, is it okay to bring in a B2C customer, or is that a showstopper? Try to have these clear defined showstoppers that needs the sign off of your head of sales or even the CEO in order for you to bring the customer in. So I think these are like, to be really detailed here and describe it in as specific as you can. What is bad fit? And then it needs to be consequences if we still bring in bad fit customers, because bad fit customers will cause a lot of issues backstream for customer success. They will never be happy, will take drain resources, and they will eventually churn, and you have lost a lot of your time and effort, which could be spent on improving and upgrading and doing more with your good fit customers. So consequences, how can we make it clear that the company do not accept bad fit customers? It can be that sales will not get their bonus or and so on based on, or they will only get their sales commission if the customer is onboarded or signed off by customer success or something like that. It needs to be really consequences if we do bring in bad fit customers. I think that's the only way to really solve this. In addition to being very open and discussing it with sales. So that's bad fit customers, and both broken product and bad fit customers are things that you can't fix them downstream. You have to fix them upstream. Basically, the customer success team and the organization working closest with the customers, they can't fix those things, or they cannot really do their job unless we fix those things before. So let's move on. Now we're coming into how do we now do the work here? How do we really, as a customer success organization, start improving churn? And we have been looking at this for a long time now, and we basically see, if we don't look at churn customers, but we look at bad health or poor health customers, we see three clear areas why they are in the poor health category. And it's onboarding failure, it's stakeholder change, and it's usage deviation. And it's usually one of these three, and I would say the last one is the bigger one, that causes this customer to be at poor health. So let's address these top three, and let's do a work here on how we can improve on these three areas. And if we start by looking at onboarding, and onboarding is, unlike many other things in the journey with a customer, it's quite a linear process. They have signed, they have signed the agreement with us. We're now about to set them up and implement and train and so on. It's quite clear process and with a clear goal as well. So we can plan this and we can set up a really good process here, but we need to do it carefully. And I think a lot of the time we know we can do this, but we haven't really spent the time, and we are a little bit rushing it, and we are a little bit doing it not as structured as we could. I think that's the common issue here. And to fix this, you have to look at the handovers. Usually it's one handover, but it can be several handovers. And the handover here is from sales to customer success, or whoever is responsible for implementing the customer or onboarding the customer. And the handover is a critical part of this, because a lot of the time has been spent with the sales representative, talking about the issues, talking about how we're going to solve it. And then there is the handover, and a lot of things can be missed in the handover. So that's like a key thing to fix. And this can be done automatically. It can be done so you know it's been done. And you can do a lot here to both streamline this, and also make sure that step has not been missed. So streamlining this process, identifying the critical steps, and making sure that you as a manager or a leader can have a look and see where in this onboarding, what is missing, what have we done, and where should we put more resources on this onboarding, or is it going quite well and everything is going to be fine? And to do that, you also have to have data. Is this customer up and running? Are they actually using it? Are all users onboarded? Have they started doing the basic steps of your product, and so on? So you don't have like a gut feel, or you ask your colleague, how is it going? You should have like data on the actual onboarding. And the key here from the customer perspective is to get to value quickly. As we looked at bad fit customers, they don't get to value quickly. And another thing we recommend strongly is that we confirm onboarding. So we don't rely on ourselves to confirm that it's on the customer's onboarded, but we ask the customer to are you happy with the first step here with us? Are you happy that you're with the steps we have taken so far? So collect that type of feedback and make sure that the customer is approving that we have completed onboarding. So these are things that you can do to fix the onboarding. If we move on to the other part, stakeholders. So very, very common problem here is that we don't monitor all stakeholders. We keep close contact with one of them or two of them, but we miss the third or the fourth one. So a key thing here is to really have all the stakeholders monitored, basically. And there are several. Usually there are at least three, is our experience, that you have a decision maker, the one who's basically signing the deal, signing the agreement, paying the bill, that type of stakeholder. You usually have a super user who is like the administrator or the person really working in the product, setting everything up, being like the internal support of the customer. You can also have power users, which are the heavy users, the ones that are really into your product, using it heavily every day, every week, or whatever the frequency can be for your type of product. But they are really ambassadors and really important for you, and they are usually the ones that are keeping the attention to your product at the customer side. And then it can be like a fourth, more of a tech person that's involved, perhaps more in like an onboarding phase or that type of part. But you have to work with these and you have to identify them. And I think the most common issue here is that you miss one of these stakeholders and you miss that something has happened. They have left, a new one has entered, something has been going on, and you have missed those activities. Or you haven't talked to them for a while. You talk to the super user regularly for a year, but you never talked to the decision maker. And the decision maker, they have made big changes in strategy, and they're going to do this or that, and you miss that. So you need to tag in, you need to clarify them, you need to monitor them, and you need to schedule calls and trigger calls to them based on how things are moving. So that's stakeholders. Then we have this deviations. So basically things that are going south on the customer. And it's usually about usage. So how are they using, or what kind of value are they getting from your product? When you get signs that things are going south, meaning they are logging in less, using your product less, getting less value from your product, you need to be on top of that. You need to get these early signals as soon as possible. And based on these deviations, you need to set your priorities. So if a big customer has dropped in how much they use your product, then that's going to be a high priority, of course. If a customer with a big potential has dropped in how they use your product, that should also be a high priority. So customers that are moving along quite well, but probably calls you or sends you a lot of email, maybe those should not get all your priorities. So setting the priorities based on these deviations that are critical makes a lot of the difference here. And when you have deviations, basically when a customer is using your product less and less, you need to identify the root cause behind that. And that can be several different things, or there can be what we believe 4 different things at least. One part can be that we need to fix competence. Basically, they don't know how to use your product good enough. Another issue can be that we have technical issues. The API is down, integrations are down, something has happened on a technical point of view. It can also be way of working. So they don't know really how to get value from your product. They understand where to click and where to look and so on, but they don't know how can we do this? How can we get our process improved by this? And the fourth one is motivation. They don't see the value of using it anymore. So very different issues, but all can be fixed, but they require different actions. And that's going to be what we talk about in the next webinar. So, and to summarize a little bit around how we can improve on our operations side, these are things we can do for our actions and our ownership. We need to, within customer success team, we need to look at what are the roles, what type of ownership and priorities should be there when it comes to renewals, when it comes to anti-churn tasks, win-backs, who should be responsible for upsell expansion, who should be responsible for planning the journey for the customer, the next steps, where should we be moving with this customer. And of course, we should look at how can we automate, where can we automate, and then we need to look at how do we visualize this and notify everyone on the progress and share reports on this. And we are strong believers in looking at leading measurements. So basically, if you launch a project now to improve churn within 12 months, you should be looking at leading measurements. Are we on the right direction here? We should see signs that customer health is improving, because if that is the case, then we know we will have an improved churn. So that type of dashboards, that type of information should be shared, and it should be something visible internally for everyone. So a little bit over time, but to summarize in short, how we net revenue retention is like a big growth lever for your company coming years. And you can improve that by improving churn, and you can improve it by improving expansion. And you do that by fixing, if you have a broken product, by fixing bad fit customers, and by doing a lot of initiatives within the customer success organization. So in summary, that's what you can do to make a big difference. We go in the next webinar, we will focus on the customer success operations part and what kind of actions you do and some best practices around that. So I hope you will sign up for that part. It's the next week, so you won't have forgotten everything. So sign up for next week and join our more action-oriented webinar. Thanks a lot for listening in, and now I will take some Q&A. So please stay if you want to listen to Q&A.